I let my son and his wife stay in my house temporarily. That's what I told myself when Jake called me on a Tuesday night in March. His voice had that careful tone he used when he wanted something, the one that made every word sound like it had been rehearsed in front of a mirror. Dad, I know this is asking a lot. I was sitting in my kitchen, eating leftover chicken and watching the news on my laptop. 52 years old, divorced for 6 years, living alone in a 3-bedroom house I'd paid off the year before. My life was simple, quiet. I liked it that way. What do you need? I asked. Lauren and I are between places right now. The lease on our apartment ends in 2 weeks, and the house we're buying won't close until June. We were hoping we could stay with you, just temporarily. Temporarily. That word should have been a red flag. How long is temporarily? 2 months, 3 at most. I looked around my kitchen. Clean counters. Everything in its place. I'd worked facilities management for 23 years, most recently as operations supervisor for Cascade Infrastructure. I spent my days managing buildings, coordinating maintenance crews, troubleshooting problems. My job had taught me that systems work when everyone follows the rules. My house was the same way. Everything had a place. Everything had a purpose. You'll keep the guest room clean? I asked. Of course. You'll respect my schedule. I leave for work at 6:30. I don't want to trip over your stuff in the morning. Dad, we're adults. We know how to live with people. That should have been my second red flag. All right, I said. 2 months. But I mean it, Jake. This is temporary. I know, Dad. Thank you, really. This means everything to us. They moved in that Saturday. Jake drove up in his leased BMW. Lauren in her white Lexus SUV. Both cars were spotless. Both cars probably cost more than my annual salary. I'd never asked what they did for money, exactly. Jake had some kind of consultant job that seemed to involve a lot of lunch meetings and networking events. Lauren ran a social media business from home, which as far as I could tell meant she took pictures of herself and posted them online. They carried in suitcases, boxes, bags from expensive stores. Lauren walked through my house like she was touring a property she might buy, her heels clicking on my hardwood floors. She was 28, blonde, pretty in a way that looked expensive. Everything about her was curated. Perfect nails, perfect teeth. The kind of smile that never quite reached her eyes. This is cozy, she said, which I was pretty sure meant small. It works for me, I said. Where should we put our things? Guest room is down the hall. Bathroom's across from it. Kitchen's obviously here. Living room's through there. Pretty straightforward. Jake was already hauling boxes toward the guest room. I watched him struggle with one that looked too heavy, his face turning red. He'd always been soft. Even as a kid, he'd avoided anything physical. I tried to teach him to change a tire once and given up after an hour. Need help? I asked. I've got it. He didn't have it. He dropped the box twice before making it to the room. Lauren was examining my coffee maker. Do you have a Keurig? Regular drip machine. Works fine. She made a face. We'll probably get our own. Sure, I said. Just keep it in your room. Counter space is limited. She didn't respond. She was looking at the refrigerator now, opening it, scanning the contents. I had milk, eggs, some vegetables, condiments, the basics. We'll need more room than this, she said. For 2 months, it'll be fine. She gave me that smile again. Of course. That first week was fine. Quiet. They kept to themselves, mostly. Jake left early for his meetings, came home late. Lauren spent her days in the guest room, on video calls, or typing on her laptop. I barely saw them. The second week, small things started changing. The thermostat was set to 74 when I came home from work. I always kept it at 68. I turned it down. The next day, it was back at 74. Lauren likes it warm, Jake explained. She gets cold easily. It's my house, I said. My utility bill. 68 is fine. He nodded, but the next day it was 74 again. The garage was another issue. I parked there every day, had for years. Came home one evening to find Lauren's Lexus in my spot. I found her in the kitchen, making tea. Lauren, the garage is my spot. Oh, sorry. It's just easier for me to unload groceries from there. You can unload from the driveway. It's raining. Then use an umbrella. She looked at me like I'd suggested something unreasonable. Jake said it would be okay. Jake doesn't decide that. I do. She moved the car, but the look she gave me made it clear she thought I was being petty. By the third week, I realized I'd stopped getting mail. I checked the mailbox every day. Nothing. Not even junk mail. I went to the post office. Your mail's being forwarded, the clerk told me. Forwarded where? She checked the computer. To this address. It says here it was requested 3 weeks ago. The address was my own house. Someone had filed a forwarding request to have my mail delivered to my house, which made no sense until I realized what it really meant. They'd filed it so they could control what I saw. I went home and found Jake in the living room, on his laptop. Did you file a mail forwarding request? He didn't look up. Lauren thought it would be easier. We're getting some packages delivered here. You forwarded my mail. It's the same address, Dad. What's the difference? The difference is I haven't seen a single piece of mail in 3 weeks. We've been putting it on the counter. I looked at the counter. Nothing. I checked the trash. Found 3 weeks of my mail, including bills, mixed in with their garbage. What the hell is this? Jake finally looked up. Lauren must have thrown it out by accident. By accident? She's been busy. She probably didn't realize. I pulled the bills out, checked the dates. One was overdue. I'd never missed a payment in my life. This stops now, I said. Cancel the forwarding. My mail comes to me. Okay, Jesus, Dad, it's not that big a deal. But it was. I was starting to see a pattern. The Wi-Fi password changed next. I came home, tried to connect my laptop, got an error. I asked Jake about it. Oh yeah, we changed it. Security reasons. What security reasons? Lauren read an article about router vulnerabilities. We just wanted to make sure everything was protected. It's my router, my internet. I pay for it. I know. Do you want the new password? He gave it to me, but the point had been made. They'd changed something fundamental without asking. My own internet, in my own house, and I'd had to ask permission for the password. I started paying attention after that. Really paying attention. The kind of attention I used at work, when I was checking systems, looking for problems before they became disasters. Little things kept appearing. Lauren's shampoo in my shower, Jake's shoes by the front door, their food taking over the refrigerator, pushing mine to the back. A new coffee maker on my counter, one of those expensive single-serve machines that took up half the space. You said you'd keep it in your room, I reminded Lauren. There's no outlet in there that works, she said. There were 3 working outlets in that room. I checked them myself before they moved in. One morning, I was making breakfast when Lauren came into the kitchen in her robe. She opened the refrigerator, looked around, closed it. We're out of almond milk, she said. I don't buy almond milk. Well, we need it. Then you should buy it. She stared at me. We're staying here temporarily, helping you out by keeping you company. The least you could do is keep the kitchen stocked. Helping me out? Well, you live here alone. It must get lonely. I wasn't lonely. I liked being alone. But I didn't say that. I just nodded and went back to my eggs. That afternoon, I came home early from work to find a package on my doorstep. Expensive-looking box, addressed to Lauren. I brought it inside, left it on the counter. She came out of the guest room an hour later, saw it, smiled. Oh, good, it's here. She opened it right there in the kitchen. A designer purse, from what I could see. Probably cost more than my monthly mortgage used to be. Nice, I said. Isn't it? I've been wanting this for months. Must be doing well with the social media business. Her smile flickered, just for a second. We're doing fine. But something in her voice made me wonder. That night, I heard them arguing. Their voices were low, but in a house this size, sound carries. I was in my room, reading, trying not to listen. But certain words came through anyway. Can't keep spending like this. You said it would work out. Need more time. What am I supposed to tell them? The argument faded. I heard a door close, then silence. I went back to my book, but I couldn't focus. A thought had started forming in my head, one I didn't like but couldn't shake. They weren't between places. They had nowhere else to go. The next morning, I got up at my usual time, 5:30. Made coffee, got dressed, grabbed my keys. Jake was already in the kitchen, which was unusual. He was never up this early. Morning, Dad. Morning. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about something. I poured my coffee. What's that? Lauren and I have been thinking. This arrangement is working out pretty well, right? It's fine. So we were thinking maybe we could extend it. Just a little bit. Maybe through August. August? You said June. I know, but the house we're buying, there are some complications, inspection issues. It's going to take longer to close. I looked at him. He was avoiding eye contact, focusing on his own coffee cup. What kind of complications? Just boring real estate stuff. You know how it is. I didn't know how it was. I'd bought this house with cash after the divorce. No complications, no delays. June was already pushing it, I said. August is 5 months. I know, and we really appreciate it. We'll make it worth your while. What does that mean? We'll help out more, with expenses and stuff. I don't need help with expenses. Come on, Dad. Let us contribute. We're living here. We should pay our share. That should have made me suspicious, but I was tired and late for work, and I just wanted the conversation to end. We'll talk about it later, I said. Sure, sounds good. I left for work thinking about that conversation. The way he'd said, we'll make it worth your while. The way he'd pivoted to talking about expenses, like he was doing me a favor. At work, I spent the day coordinating a maintenance project at one of our facilities, a 6-story office building downtown. HVAC system needed replacing. I supervised the crew, checked the work, made sure everything was done right. This was what I was good at. Systems, logistics, making sure all the pieces fit together correctly. By the time I got home, it was after 6. Both cars were in the driveway, Lauren's Lexus still taking my garage spot. I parked on the street and went inside. They were both in the kitchen, cooking from the smell of it. Something with garlic. Lauren was at the stove, Jake setting the table. Hey, Dad, Jake said. We made dinner, figured we'd all eat together. I looked at the table. 3 plates, 3 sets of silverware, like this was normal, like we were a family. I already ate, I lied. Oh, well, there's plenty if you change your mind. I went to my room, closed the door, sat on my bed. My stomach was growling, but I wasn't about to sit at that table and pretend everything was fine. Something was shifting in this house, something I needed to understand. I opened my laptop and did something I probably should have done weeks ago. I looked up my son online. His LinkedIn profile came up first. Independent business consultant. No company listed, no specific clients, just vague language about facilitating growth opportunities and strategic partnerships. The kind of language that meant nothing. Lauren's profile was similar. Social media entrepreneur, lifestyle brand manager, digital content creator, all terms that sounded impressive but revealed nothing concrete. I dug deeper. Found an article from 2 years ago about Jake's previous company, some kind of startup. It had folded. There were other mentions, other ventures, all of them short-lived. A pattern of starting things that never quite took off. I closed the laptop, sat in the dark for a while, thinking. They didn't have money, they didn't have a house in escrow, they didn't have anywhere else to go, and now they wanted to stay until August. I should have kicked them out right then. That would have been the smart thing to do. But Jake was my son, my only child, and despite everything, despite the distance that had grown between us over the years, I wanted to believe he'd figure it out, get back on his feet, find his way. So I decided to give him until June. That was the original agreement. I'd hold him to that. I went to sleep that night thinking I was being generous, thinking I was being a good father. I had no idea what was coming. The shift happened so gradually I almost didn't notice it. It started with the utilities. I came home from work one evening in late March to find Jake waiting for me in the living room, laptop open, papers spread across the coffee table. Dad, good, you're home. I wanted to go over something with you. I set down my keys. What's this? I've been looking at your utility bills. Electric, gas, water, internet. I think we can optimize things. Optimize? Yeah, you're overpaying for internet. I found a better plan. And your electric company has this thing where if you switch to autopay, you get a 5% discount. Same with the gas. He had printouts, comparison charts. It actually looked like he'd put effort into this. These are my accounts, I said. I've had them for years. I know, but you're leaving money on the table. Look, if you switch everything to these plans and set up autopay, you'll save about $80 a month. That's almost $1,000 a year. I picked up one of the printouts. He was right. The numbers made sense. Why are you doing this? I asked. Because we're staying here. We should contribute. This is how we can help. It seemed reasonable. Helpful, even. And I was tired. Tired of always being on guard, always suspicious. Maybe I'd been too hard on them. Maybe they really were trying to make this work. All right, I said, but I still need access to the accounts. Of course. I'll set everything up and give you all the logins. It'll just be easier if everything's in one place. He started making the changes that night, switched the internet provider, set up autopay for utilities, created a new email address to manage everything, something about keeping it organized. He gave me the password, showed me how to log in. Everything seemed fine. For about a week. Then I tried to check the electric bill. Couldn't log in. The password didn't work. I asked Jake about it. "Oh, yeah, the system made me change it. Security thing. Here, I'll write it down for you." He gave me the new password. I tried again that night. Still didn't work. "Are you sure you're typing it right?" Jake asked when I mentioned it. "I'm typing it exactly how you wrote it." "Weird. Let me look at it later. I'm in the middle of something right now." Later never came. Whenever I asked, he was busy. Had a call. Was working on something important. The days stretched into a week, then 2. I tried calling the electric company directly. They told me they couldn't discuss the account without proper verification. When I gave them my information, they said the account holder had changed. Changed to who? "I'm sorry, sir. I can't release that information." I hung up and went to find Jake. He was in the guest room on a video call, laughing with someone on the other end. I waited in the doorway until he noticed me. He held up a finger, 1 minute, and went back to his conversation. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Finally, he ended the call. "What's up, Dad?" "The electric account. It's not in my name anymore." "What?" "No, it's still in your name. They probably just have it listed differently in their system." "They said the account holder changed?" "That doesn't make sense. I just updated the payment method." "Hold on, let me call them." He made a show of calling, of talking to a representative, of sorting it out. When he hung up, he smiled. "All fixed. They had it coded wrong. You're still the primary account holder." But I wasn't. I knew I wasn't, and he knew I knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about the bills, the accounts, the gradual way everything had shifted. It reminded me of something I'd seen at work years ago. A contractor who'd slowly taken over a building's systems, one utility at a time, until the owner realized they couldn't operate without him. By then, the contractor had leverage, could charge whatever he wanted. I got up, went to my office, pulled out my file cabinet, found the folder where I kept copies of important documents. Deed to the house, insurance papers, tax records, everything was there, except it wasn't, not anymore. The folder was lighter than it should have been. I went through it, page by page. The deed was there, but it was a photocopy, not the original. Same with the title, same with several other documents. Someone had replaced the originals with copies. I checked the other folders. Same thing. Someone had gone through my files systematically and replaced originals with copies. Not everything. That would have been too obvious. Just the important things. The documents that actually mattered. I sat at my desk, staring at the folders, and felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't about temporary. This wasn't about helping out. This was about taking over. The next morning, I left for work early before anyone else was up. I needed space to think. At the office, I went through my routine on autopilot, checking emails, reviewing maintenance schedules, coordinating with crew chiefs, but my mind was elsewhere. I thought about that contractor, the one who'd tried to take over the building. I thought about how he'd been stopped, not by confrontation, not by calling him out, but by quietly, systematically cutting him out of every system he'd infiltrated, by taking back control one piece at a time, so gradually he didn't notice until it was too late. I started making a list, not on my work computer, that would leave a record, on paper, in a notebook I kept in my desk drawer. Things they'd changed, thermostat, garage, mail, Wi-Fi, utility accounts, my files, things they didn't know about, my work access, my banking, I'd never given them account numbers, my actual legal documents, I had copies at my lawyer's office, the spare house keys, I had a set at work. I added to the list throughout the day. By the end of my shift, I had 2 pages filled. Patterns were emerging. They were good at social manipulation, at making things seem reasonable. But they didn't understand systems, didn't understand how buildings worked, how access worked, how control actually functioned. I drove home thinking about leverage, about pressure points, about the difference between seeming to have power and actually having it. When I got home, there was a locksmith's van in the driveway. I parked on the street, walked up to the house. The front door was open. I could hear voices inside. I walked in to find a man in a work uniform installing a new lock on my bedroom door. Jake was standing there, supervising. He saw me and smiled. "Hey, Dad, just upgrading the locks. The one on your bedroom was pretty old." "Why?" I asked. "Security. This is a better lock. Oh, more protection." "From what?" "Just in general. This is a good neighborhood, but you can never be too careful." The locksmith finished, tested the lock, handed Jake a pair of keys. Not to me, to Jake. "All set," the locksmith said. "That'll be $200 even." Jake paid him in cash, walked him out. I stood in the hallway looking at my new lock. understanding exactly what had just happened. They'd installed a lock on my door, taken the keys, and now controlled access to my own bedroom. When Jake came back, I was still standing there. "You want one of these?" He held up a key. "I got 2 made." "Why do you have keys to my bedroom?" "Just in case, if there's an emergency or something." "What kind of emergency would require you to get into my bedroom?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Just seems smart to have a backup." "Give me both keys." Dad, come on. Don't be paranoid." "Give me the keys, Jake." He handed me one. "I need to keep one. What if you lock yourself out?" "Then I'll call a locksmith." "That's a waste of money. Just let me keep one. I'm not going to use it." I took the key he'd given me, went into my room, closed the door. Tested the lock. It worked fine. I could lock them out. But they had a key, which meant I couldn't keep them out. Not really. I sat on my bed, holding the key, and realized I'd just lost something important. Not just privacy, not just security, but the basic right to have a space they couldn't enter. I spent that evening in my room, door locked, thinking. They were moving faster now, getting bolder. The question was why? What had changed? Around 8, I heard voices in the living room. Jake and Lauren arguing again. I got up, pressed my ear against the door. "Can't wait until August. We need 2? I'm handling it." Barely scraping by, and you said, "What do you want me to do? He's my father." "Ugh, doesn't matter. We need this house." The voices moved away. I heard a door close, then silence. Need this house. Not want. Need. I opened my laptop, went back to searching. This time, I went deeper. Court records, public filings, credit reports I could access through a service I'd used for tenant screening back when I'd rented out my basement years ago. It took 2 hours, but I found it. They'd filed for bankruptcy. 18 months ago, complete liquidation, which meant they'd had nothing, lost everything. I kept digging, found more. Eviction notices from their last apartment, a small claims judgment against Jake for unpaid debts, another one against Lauren for breach of contract on some business deal. They were broke, not temporarily, not between places, completely, thoroughly broke. And they'd been lying about everything from the start. The house they were supposedly buying didn't exist. The consultant work, probably fake. The social media business, maybe she had an account, but it wasn't generating income. They'd moved in here because they had nowhere else to go, and now they were trying to take over my house because it was their only option. I closed the laptop, sat in the dark for a long time. Part of me wanted to confront them immediately, throw them out, change all the locks, pack their stuff, put it on the lawn. But I'd learned over the years that knee-jerk reactions rarely solved problems. They just created different problems. No, this needed to be handled carefully, systematically. I needed to understand exactly what they'd done, what they thought they were doing, and what vulnerabilities they'd created for themselves in the process. Because if they thought they were taking over my house, they were wrong, and I needed to make sure they understood that completely and permanently. But first, I needed to let them think they were winning. The next morning, I acted normal. Made coffee, said good morning, went to work, came home, ate dinner in my room, watched TV, didn't ask about the locks, didn't mention the utilities, didn't push back on anything. Jake noticed. I could tell. He was watching me, trying to figure out what I was thinking. But I gave him nothing. Just went through my routine like always. 3 days later, they made their next move. I came home to find them both in the living room, papers spread out on the coffee table. They looked serious, concerned. "Dad, we need to talk," Jake said. I set down my keys. "About what?" "The expenses. Sit down." I sat. Lauren handed me a sheet of paper. It had numbers on it, a breakdown of what they were calling household costs. Utilities, internet, groceries, maintenance. All added up, divided by 3. "This is your share," Jake said, pointing to a number at the bottom. $400 a month. I looked at the number. My share of what? Of running the house. We've been covering everything, but it's not fair for us to pay for all of it. We should split it evenly. "This is my house. I've been paying these bills for 6 years. "We know, but we're living here now. We're all using utilities, eating food, benefiting from the space. It makes sense to split it." I looked at the itemized list. They'd included things that didn't exist, a cleaning service I didn't use, premium TV channels I didn't have, grocery costs that were triple what I normally spent. "These numbers are wrong," I said. "No, we tracked everything. Lauren made a spreadsheet. I don't spend $300 a month on groceries. Well, with 3 people, costs go up. And I don't have a cleaning service. We hired one. The house needed it. I cleaned my own house. Lauren finally spoke. You do an okay job, but a professional deep clean was necessary. We have standards. I looked at her. Standards. We're not going to live in a dirty house. My house isn't dirty. It wasn't up to our usual environment. I turned back to Jake. I'm not paying for services I didn't ask for. Dad, come on, don't be difficult. We're trying to split things fairly. Fairly would be you paying rent. His expression changed. Something hardened behind his eyes. We're family. We shouldn't be charging each other rent. But you're charging me for cleaning services I don't want. That's different. That's actual expenses. So is the mortgage. You don't have a mortgage. The house is paid off. And that's my business, not yours. We stared at each other. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Lauren was watching both of us, her expression unreadable. Finally, Jake picked up the paper. Fine. We'll cover the expenses ourselves, but you're going to need to contribute somehow. We can't keep subsidizing your lifestyle. My lifestyle? You live here alone in a 3-bedroom house. That's a lot of space for one person. We're helping you make use of it. I stood up. I didn't ask for your help. Well, you're getting it anyway, because we're family, and family takes care of each other. I went to my room, locked the door behind me, sat on my bed, breathing slowly, forcing myself to stay calm, subsidizing my lifestyle, helping me make use of the space. They'd completely inverted reality. In their version of events, they were doing me a favor by being here. I pulled out my notebook, added to my list. They were creating a narrative, building a story where they were the reasonable ones, the helpful ones, and I was the difficult, ungrateful father who didn't appreciate their contributions. This was about more than just living here rent-free. They were building a case. For what, I wasn't sure yet, but I needed to find out. That weekend, I paid attention, really paid attention, not just to what they said, but to who they talked to, where they went, what they did. Saturday morning, Lauren had visitors. 2 women, both around her age, both dressed in expensive athleisure wear. They sat in my living room, drinking coffee from Lauren's fancy machine, talking about people I didn't know. I was in the kitchen, pretending to read the newspaper, but really listening. So grateful to have family support. Temporary situation, of course. But his house is just perfect for us right now. He's been so generous. They were telling people this was my idea, that I'd invited them to stay, that I was happy to have them here. I kept reading my newspaper, didn't react, let them build their story. Sunday afternoon, I was in the garage. Not my garage anymore, apparently, since Lauren's car was still there and mine was in the driveway, looking for a tool. I heard voices outside. Went to the window, looked out. Jake was talking to my neighbor, Dennis. Dennis was retired, lived alone, spent most of his time gardening. Nice guy. We talked occasionally, mostly about lawn maintenance. Dad's getting older, you know. We wanted to be here for him. He seems pretty independent. Sure, but you never know. Better to be close by. That's good of you. Family's important. I watched Jake put his hand on Dennis's shoulder, that concerned son expression on his face. Dennis was nodding, buying every word. By the end of the weekend, I understood what they were doing. They were building social proof, creating a story where they were the caring children taking care of their aging father. Never mind that I was 52 and in perfect health. Never mind that I didn't need or want their help. The story was more important than the truth. Monday morning, I got to work early. I had projects to check on, but more than that, I needed to think. My office was small but private, with a door that locked. I sat at my desk, pulled out my notebook, started writing. They were creating dependency, making it look like I needed them, building a social narrative where they were essential to my well-being, which meant if I tried to kick them out, I'd look like the bad guy, the ungrateful father rejecting his helpful children. But dependency worked both ways. I thought about the systems I managed at work, the buildings, the utilities, the access points, everything interconnected, everything relying on everything else. And the thing about dependencies was this. Once you understood them, you could reverse them, make the person who thought they were in control realize they were actually the dependent one. I started a new page in my notebook. Not a list this time, a plan. Step 1, document everything. Every lie, every manipulation, every instance of them changing things without permission. I needed a record. Step 2, maintain the appearance of normal. Let them think I'd accepted the situation. No more confrontations, no more pushback. Step 3, identify their actual vulnerabilities. Not the surface stuff, but the real pressure points. the things they needed that they didn't even realize they needed. Step 4. Wait. The hardest part would be step 4. I wasn't patient by nature. When I saw a problem, I wanted to fix it immediately. But this required a different approach. This required letting the problem grow until it couldn't be ignored, until the solution became inevitable. I spent the rest of that week watching, taking notes, being pleasant. When Jake asked if I wanted to join them for dinner, I said yes. Sat at the table, made small talk, pretended everything was fine. When Lauren needed help moving furniture, I helped. Didn't complain about her rearranging my living room without asking. When they had friends over on Friday night, I stayed in my room but didn't object to the noise, the music, the strangers in my house until midnight. I was being compliant, reasonable, exactly what they wanted, and they loved it. I could see the relief on Jake's face, the satisfaction on Lauren's. They thought I'd accepted the new arrangement, thought they'd won. By the end of April, they'd taken over most of the house. Their stuff was everywhere. Their food dominated the kitchen. Their routines dictated the schedule. I'd been pushed into a corner of my own home, and that was exactly where I wanted to be, because they'd stopped being careful, stopped watching what they said, what they did. They felt secure now, in control, which meant they were about to make mistakes. And I was going to be ready. I spent Friday night cleaning my house, started in the guest room, stripping the bed, opening windows, letting fresh air in, vacuumed the carpet, wiped down surfaces, removed every trace of them. The room that had been theirs for 3 months became mine again in 2 hours. Next was the bathroom. Cleaned the shower, the sink, the toilet, threw away the fancy products they'd left behind, scrubbed until it smelled like bleach and nothing else. Living room, kitchen, hallway. Every space they'd occupied, every corner they'd claimed, I reclaimed it. Put my furniture back where it belonged. Removed their decorations. Reset my thermostat to 68 degrees. By 3 a.m., my house looked like I'd never let them move in at all. I took a shower, went to bed in my clean room with my new lock, and slept better than I had in months. Saturday morning, I woke up at 9. Late for me, but I'd earned it. Made coffee in my kitchen, sat at my table, looked around at my space. My phone had messages. Several from Jake, a few from numbers I didn't recognize. I deleted them without reading. I wasn't interested in arguments or guilt trips or whatever story they were trying to spin now. I spent Saturday doing normal things, grocery shopping, yard work, fixed a loose board on my deck, the kind of maintenance I'd been neglecting because I'd been too busy watching them take over my life. Dennis came over around noon, ostensibly to borrow a rake. "Hey, Jack. Saw some activity here last night. Everything okay?" "Everything's fine." "Jake and Lauren left?" "Temporarily ended up being 3 months. They found a place, moved out." He nodded, but his expression said he didn't quite believe it. "Jake mentioned you'd been having some disagreements." "Did he?" "Said you were struggling with them being here, that you'd been acting strange." There it was, the narrative, the story they'd been building, now being deployed. "Dennis, let me ask you something. Did you ever see Jake or Lauren pay for anything, help with yard work, do any maintenance?" He thought about it. "No, I guess not." "Did you ever see them treat this place like it was mine or like it was theirs?" "Well, now that you mention it, Lauren did tell me once that they were planning to remodel. I thought it was odd, since it's your house." "It is my house. It was always my house. They were guests who overstayed." Understanding crossed his face. "Ah, well, good you sorted it out then." "Yeah." He went back to his yard. I went back to mine. The conversation would spread, I knew. Dennis would tell other neighbors, they'd tell more people. By Monday, everyone would have heard some version of what happened, but at least now I'd gotten my version out there first. Sunday was quieter. I slept late again, woke up to silence. My phone had more messages, but I'd started blocking numbers now. If Jake wanted to talk to me, he'd have to do it face to face, and I wasn't planning to see him anytime soon. I spent the morning reading, the afternoon watching a game on TV, the evening cooking a real meal for the first time in months, taking my time with it, enjoying the process. Around 8 p.m., someone rang my doorbell. I looked through the window first. Not Jake or Lauren. 2 police officers. I opened the door. "Can I help you?" "Jack Brennan?" "That's me." "We got a call about a domestic disturbance at this address. Mind if we come in?" I stepped aside. They walked through my house, looked around. Everything was clean, quiet, normal. "There's no disturbance here," I said. "I'm alone." The caller said there'd been a fight, said someone had been forced out of the residence. "My son and his wife were staying here temporarily. Their time was up, so they left. No fight, no force. They just left. They said you threw out all their belongings. I packed their belongings and moved them to a storage unit. They were given the address. Everything's secure. The officers looked at each other. One of them pulled out a notebook. Did you give them notice? Proper eviction procedure? They weren't tenants. They were guests. I have documentation from my lawyer confirming they had no legal residency claim. I was within my rights to ask them to leave. But you changed the locks. It's my house. I'm allowed to change the locks. More glances between them. They were trying to figure out if there was a crime here. Finally, the first officer put away his notebook. Sounds like a civil matter, not a criminal one. If they have issues with how you handled things, they'll need to take it up in civil court. Understood. But Mr. Brennan, if this escalates, if there's any violence or threats, call us immediately. I will. They left. I closed the door, went back to my couch, picked up my book. Read for another hour before going to bed. The police visit meant they were getting desperate, trying to use the system against me, trying to create a narrative where I was the bad guy. But it hadn't worked. The officers had seen through it, seen that I was calm, reasonable, in control of my own property. They'd tried to make me the villain in their story. Instead, they just made themselves look like the liars they were. Monday morning, I went to work early. Wanted to get ahead of any stories, any gossip that might spread to my job, but no one asked about anything. My supervisor just nodded when I walked in, said, "Good to have you back on regular schedule," and that was it. I spent the day working on a project at one of our facilities, coordinating with contractors, checking systems. Everything was normal, routine, exactly how I liked it. At lunch, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Mr. Brennan, this is Angela from Henderson Property Management. I received your information from your lawyer. I understand you had a situation with unauthorized occupants. That's correct. Have they attempted to return to the property? No, but they might. I'd like to send someone to do a security assessment. Make sure your locks are adequate, check for any vulnerabilities. No charge, we do this for potential clients. I'm not looking for property management. I understand, but humor me. Let me send someone out. If nothing else, you'll have peace of mind. I thought about it. When? This afternoon? Say around 4? All right. She gave me a name, Tony Martinez, and a description. He'll have ID. Don't let anyone in without confirming who they are. I won't. Tony showed up at 4 exactly, dressed professionally, ID clearly displayed. He spent an hour going through my house, checking locks, windows, security, made notes, took photos. You did good with the locks, he said. These are solid, but your windows are vulnerable. Anyone with basic tools could get through them in under a minute. Should I upgrade? I'd recommend it. Also, consider a security system. Cameras at minimum. Something that alerts you if someone's on the property when they shouldn't be. How much are we talking? He gave me numbers. Not cheap, but not impossible. I can have everything installed by Friday. Do it, he made notes. You expecting more trouble from these people? I don't know, but I'd rather be prepared. Smart. I'll get the crew scheduled. He left. I spent the evening researching security systems, cameras, alert protocols. By the time I went to bed, I'd ordered additional equipment online, motion sensors for the perimeter, extra cameras for the driveway and backyard, a safe for my documents. I wasn't paranoid. I was prepared. There's a difference. Tuesday, I went to the storage unit, checked on their stuff. Everything was still there, untouched. They hadn't come to get it yet, probably didn't have anywhere to take it. I paid for another month just to be safe. Didn't want them claiming I destroyed their property or locked them out of accessing it. Wednesday, the security crew showed up. Spent the day installing everything. New window locks, cameras, motion sensors, the works. By evening, my house was more secure than it had ever been. Everything's connected to your phone, the installer explained. You'll get alerts for any movement on the property. You can check the cameras from anywhere, and if anyone tries to tamper with the system, it automatically contacts the monitoring service and the police. Perfect. One more thing. He handed me a small device. Panic button. Keep it on you. If you ever feel unsafe, just press it. Police will be here in under 5 minutes. I took it. Hoped I'd never need it. Thursday was quiet. No calls, no visits, no drama. I started to think maybe they'd given up. Found somewhere else to go. Moved on with their lives. I should have known better. Friday morning, I was getting ready for work when my phone buzzed. Alert from my security system. Motion detected at the front door. I opened the camera app. Jake was standing on my porch. He'd lost weight. Looked like he hadn't slept much. He knocked on the door. I didn't answer, just watched him through the camera. He knocked again. "Dad, I know you're in there. I can hear you moving around. Please, just open the door. We need to talk." I stayed silent. "Dad, come on. I'm your son. Just give me 5 minutes." I opened the app's speaker function. "Go away, Jake." He looked up at the camera. "You're really going to talk to me through a camera? You're really going to show up uninvited after I told you to leave? I need to talk to you. So talk." He looked around, like he was checking if neighbors were watching. "Not like this. Let me in." "No." "Dad, you tried to steal my house, Jake. You lied to me for months. You manipulated everyone around us to make me look like the bad guy. Why would I let you in?" Because I'm sorry. Because I made mistakes and I want to fix them." "You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair? You took over my home. You tried to steal the only thing I have left after the divorce. You treated me like I was too stupid or too old to notice what you were doing, and now you want to talk about fair?" He was quiet for a moment. Then, "We have nowhere else to go." "Not my problem. We're living in my car. Lauren's staying with a friend, but I can't even do that because her friend doesn't have room. I've been sleeping in a parking lot for 5 days." Part of me felt bad. A small part. The father part that remembered teaching him to ride a bike, helping him with homework, being proud when he graduated college. But the larger part, the part that had spent 3 months being slowly pushed out of my own home, felt nothing. "You did this to yourself," I said. I know I did, but I'm asking for help. Just temporary, just until I figure things out." "That's what you said last time." "This time will be different." "No, it won't, because you haven't changed. You're still lying, still manipulating, still trying to make this my responsibility instead of yours." "What am I supposed to do?" "Get a job, find an apartment, figure out your life like every other adult has to." "I can't do that without help." "You had help. You had a free place to stay for 3 months. You could have used that time to save money, get stable, find somewhere permanent. Instead, you used it to try to steal from me. Those were your choices." He started to say something, stopped. Tried again. "You're my father. And you're my son, but that doesn't mean I have to let you destroy me." "I wasn't trying to destroy you." "Yes, you were. Maybe you didn't think of it that way. Maybe you convinced yourself you were helping me or doing what was necessary. But the result was the same. You were taking my life apart piece by piece." Silence. He looked down at his feet. "I can't help you anymore, Jake. I'm sorry, but I can't. You need to figure this out on your own." "And if I can't?" "Then you'll face the consequences, like everyone else does." He stood there for another minute. Then he turned and walked away. Got in his car, the BMW he couldn't afford, still leased, probably behind on payments, and drove off. I closed the camera app, stood in my hallway, breathing slowly. That should have been the end of it, but I was wrong. The first sign of real trouble came Saturday afternoon. I was in my garage, organizing tools, when my phone buzzed. Security alert. Multiple people on the property. I opened the camera feed. Lauren was on my porch, but she wasn't alone. She'd brought friends, the same 2 women who'd been over during their party, plus a man I didn't recognize. All of them looked angry. I activated the speaker. "Lauren, leave." She looked up at the camera. "Not until you talk to us." "There's nothing to talk about. You put Jake on the street, your own son. Do you know how messed up that is?" I gave Jake 3 months to figure out his situation. He chose to spend that time lying to me instead. He made mistakes. He tried to steal my house. The man spoke up. "That's her husband you're talking about. Show some respect." "I don't know who you are," I said, "but you're on my property without permission. All of you need to leave." "We're not leaving until you agree to help Jake." "Then I'm calling the police." I pulled up the police non-emergency number, was about to dial when Lauren's voice came through the speaker again. "Wait, just wait, please." I waited. "Look, I know things got out of hand. I know we pushed too hard. But Jake is falling apart. He's depressed, he's not eating, he's barely functioning. And it's because of you. It's because of his choices. He's your son. You're supposed to be there for him no matter what." I was there for him, for 3 months, and he thanked me by trying to commit fraud. One of the women spoke. "Maybe if you'd been a better father, he wouldn't have had to do that." Something cold settled in my chest. "Excuse me?" "Jake told us about your divorce, how you just gave up on the family, how you put your own needs first. Maybe he learned that from you." I could have argued. Could have explained that his mother had left me, not the other way around. That I'd tried to maintain a relationship with Jake, but he distanced himself. That nothing about my divorce had been easy or selfish. But I didn't owe these strangers explanations. You have 60 seconds to leave my property. After that, I'm calling the police and pressing charges for trespassing. You're heartless, Lauren said. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. They stood there, probably trying to decide if I was bluffing. I pulled up my phone's timer app, set it for 60 seconds, started the countdown where they could see it on the camera. 59, 58, 57. At 30 seconds, they started moving. Slowly, making a show of it, but moving. Lauren was the last to leave, standing at the edge of my porch staring up at the camera. This isn't over, she said. Yeah, it is. They left. I watched them get in their cars. One of the women had driven them over and drive away. I went back inside, locked the door, checked all the windows, made sure the security system was armed. Then I sat down and thought about what had just happened. They'd brought reinforcements, tried to use social pressure. When that didn't work, they'd tried guilt. And when that didn't work, they'd made threats. This was escalating. I spent the rest of Saturday reviewing my security footage from the past week, looking for patterns. Times they drove by, times they stopped, times they just sat in their car outside, watching the house. Jake had been by 4 times since I kicked them out. Always in the evening, always alone. Just sitting in his car, staring at the house. Lauren had been by twice. Once alone, once with the group I'd just encountered. Both times she'd stayed longer, walked around the property, looked in windows. They were watching me, studying my routines, looking for vulnerabilities. Sunday morning, I called my lawyer. Jack, what's going on? I explained the situation. The visit, the threats, the pattern of surveillance. Do you feel unsafe? He asked. I feel like they're planning something. Then we need to get ahead of it. I'm going to draft a cease and desist letter. Send it to both of them. Makes it clear that any further contact, direct or indirect, will result in legal action. Will that actually stop them? Sometimes. Depends how desperate they are. They're pretty desperate. Then it might not stop them, but it creates a paper trail. Shows you've taken reasonable steps. If something happens, it strengthens your position. All right. Send the letter. I'll have it out tomorrow. I spent Sunday inside, doors locked, security system on, monitored the cameras periodically. No one came by, no alerts. Just quiet. Too quiet, maybe. Monday at work, I pulled Marcus aside again. Need another favor? What's up? If anything happens to me, if I end up in the hospital, if I disappear, if anything seems wrong, there's a folder in my desk at home. First drawer, right side. Inside is documentation of everything that's been happening, phone records, security footage, photos, notes. Take it to the police. His expression got serious. Jack, what's going on? Just insurance. Probably nothing. Probably. My son's not handling things well. I don't think he'd actually do anything, but I'd rather be prepared. You want me to come stay with you? Extra security? No. Just know where the folder is. He nodded. All right. But if things get worse, call me. I will. Tuesday, the cease and desist letters were delivered. I got confirmation from my lawyer that both Jake and Lauren had been served. How'd they react? I asked. Jake signed for it. Read it. Didn't say anything. Lauren refused to sign it first, argued with the courier, eventually took it. Both of them now have legal notice that further harassment will result in action. Good. Jack, one more thing. If they do escalate, don't engage. Don't respond, don't argue, just document and call the police. You need to stay clean on this. I understand. Wednesday was quiet. Thursday was quiet. By Friday, I started to think maybe the letter had worked. Maybe they'd realized they were out of options and moved on. I should have known better. Friday evening, I was making dinner when my phone buzzed. Security alert. Someone in the backyard. I pulled up the camera. Jake was there, trying to open the back door. When it didn't open, I'd installed new locks on every entrance. He moved to a window, started trying to pry it open. I activated the speaker. Jake, stop! He froze, looked around for the camera. Found it. Dad, please, just let me in. We need to talk. You were served a cease and desist. This is illegal. I don't care. I need to talk to you. Then you'll talk to the police too. I dialed 911, gave them my address, explained there was someone trying to break into my house, kept the camera feed open so I could see what Jake was doing. He gave up on the window, moved to another one, kept trying, getting more frustrated. Finally, he just stood in my backyard, looking up at the cameras. You're really going to do this? Call the cops on your own son? You're trying to break into my house. It was my house, too, for 3 months. You just decided one day to throw me out like I was nothing. I decided after you tried to steal it. I wasn't stealing it. I was trying to save it. Save us. Give us a chance at something stable. By committing fraud? By doing what I had to do. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. Jake, you need to leave right now, before they get here. No, I'm done running. I'm done pretending everything's fine. You want to call the cops on me? Fine. Let them come. Let everyone see what kind of father you are. The sirens got louder, pulled into my driveway. Jake just stood there, hands at his sides, waiting. 2 officers came around the side of the house, hands on their belts. Sir, step away from the window. Jake didn't move. Sir, I need you to step away from the window and put your hands where I can see them. Slowly, Jake raised his hands, stepped away from the window. I'm his son, Jake said. This is a family dispute. We're just trying to work things out. One officer looked at the window, saw the marks where Jake had been trying to pry it open. By breaking in? I wasn't breaking in. I was trying to get his attention. Sir, the homeowner called us, said you were trying to force entry. He's my father. He's overreacting. The officer looked at me through the camera. I'd come outside by then, stood on my porch. Mr. Brennan, is this your son? Yes. Do you want to press charges? I looked at Jake. He looked back at me. In that moment, I saw something I'd been trying not to see for months. He wasn't just desperate. He was broken. Whatever had been holding him together had finally cracked. Part of me wanted to say no, wanted to give him one more chance, wanted to believe he could still figure this out. But I thought about the timeline in his drawer, the notes about taking over the house, the coldness in Lauren's eyes when I'd confronted them, the way they'd tried to turn everyone against me. Yes, I said. I want to press charges. Jake's expression didn't change, like he'd expected this, like he'd known all along it would end this way. The officers moved forward. One of them put handcuffs on Jake while the other read him his rights. Jake didn't resist, just let it happen. As they walked him to the patrol car, he looked back at me. You'll regret this, he said. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll be safe. They put him in the car, drove away. I stood on my porch, watching until the lights disappeared. Then I went inside, locked the door, sat in my living room. My phone rang. Lauren. I didn't answer. She called again, and again. On the 4th call, I answered. What? What did you do? Her voice was shaking with rage. He tried to break into my house. He's your son. He's an adult who made a choice. Now he's facing the consequences. They're taking him to jail. Do you understand that? Your son is going to jail because of you. My son is going to jail because he tried to break into my house after being legally warned to stay away. I hate you. I hate you so much. If anything happens to him, then you'll blame me. I know. You've been blaming me for everything since you moved in. But here's the truth, Lauren. I didn't do this to Jake. He did it to himself. I hung up, blocked her number, blocked Jake's number, blocked every number I could think of that they might use. Then I sat in my quiet house and waited for whatever came next. Jake made bail Sunday afternoon. I knew because my security system alerted me when someone drove slowly past my house. I checked the camera feed, saw the BMW. Jake was in the passenger seat. Lauren was driving. They didn't stop, just drove past, slow enough that I'd see them, fast enough that they could claim they were just passing through the neighborhood. A message, a reminder. We're still here. I saved the footage, added it to the folder in my desk. Monday morning, I got a call from my lawyer. The prosecutor wants to talk to you. Jake's attorney is trying to get the charges reduced. They're claiming family dispute, mental health issues, saying you're being vindictive. I'm being vindictive? That's their story. Jake's saying he was desperate, not thinking clearly, just wanted to talk to his father. His lawyer's good, making him sound sympathetic. What do you recommend? Meet with the prosecutor. Tell your side. Make sure they understand this wasn't a one-time thing, that there's a pattern of behavior. Bring your documentation. When? Tomorrow at 10. I'll go with you. The meeting lasted 2 hours. The prosecutor, a tired-looking woman in her 40s, listened to everything. Looked at my photos, my notes, my timeline, watched security footage of Jake trying to break in, of Lauren and her friends on my porch, of the multiple drive-bys. This is more extensive than the initial report suggested, she said. That's why I wanted to meet, my lawyer said. This isn't about a father being harsh with his son. This is about a pattern of escalating behavior. Has your son ever been violent? She asked me. Not physically, but he's been manipulative, dishonest, and increasingly desperate. Desperation makes people unpredictable. That's what I'm afraid of. She made notes. I'm not reducing the charges. Given the cease and desist, given the pattern, this stays as attempted breaking and entering. If he wants to plead it down, we can discuss that, but I'm not dropping it. Thank you. Mr. Brennan, be careful. When charges stick, sometimes people get more dangerous, not less. I went to work after the meeting, tried to focus on normal things, maintenance schedules, crew coordination, system checks. But my mind was elsewhere. I kept thinking about what the prosecutor had said. More dangerous, not less. That evening, I added more cameras, pointed them at different angles, made sure there were no blind spots. Upgraded the monitoring service to include video recording, not just motion alerts. Made sure everything was backed up to the cloud, so even if someone destroyed the cameras, I'd still have footage. Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered it. Jack Brennan. Yes. This is Dr. Reeves from County Mental Health. I'm calling about your son, Jake Brennan. He's been in our facility since yesterday. My stomach dropped. What happened? He attempted suicide. He's stable now, but he's under observation. I sat down. How? I can't discuss the details without his permission, but his wife asked me to call you. She thought you should know. Is he going to be okay? Physically, yes. Mentally, that's why he's here. We're doing evaluations, trying to understand what led to this. When can I see him? He'd have to agree to that. Right now, he's not seeing visitors except his wife. Can you tell him I called? That I want to make sure he's okay? I'll let him know. She hung up. I sat in my living room, phone in my hand, trying to process what I'd just heard. My son had been so desperate, so broken, that he'd tried to end his life, and part of me wondered if it was my fault. I called my lawyer. Did you know about this? I just found out. Jake's attorney called me 20 minutes ago. They're going to use it to argue for mental health intervention instead of criminal prosecution. Is that going to work? Possibly. If the court decides he's not a danger to others, just to himself, they might mandate treatment instead of jail time. And if he is a danger to others, then he stays in the facility until they determine he's stable. I hung up, sat there for a long time. Part of me felt guilty. I'd pushed him away, cut him off, pressed charges. Maybe if I'd handled things differently, he wouldn't have ended up here. But the larger part of me knew that wasn't true. Jake's problems weren't my fault. His choices, his lies, his desperation, those were his to own. I'd protected myself. That's all. Still, knowing that didn't make it easier. Thursday, I tried to visit Jake at the facility. They wouldn't let me in. Patient's request, the receptionist said. He's not seeing you right now. I left my number. If he changes his mind, have him call me. She took the number, but didn't look like she believed it would be used. Friday, Lauren called. The call came from a number I hadn't blocked yet. He almost died because of you. Lauren, he took pills, a whole bottle. I'm sorry. Sorry? That's it? Your son almost died, and all you can say is sorry. What do you want me to say? That you'll drop the charges, that you'll help us, that you'll stop being so goddamn selfish. I can't do that. Why not? He's in a hospital. He's getting help. Isn't that enough? It's not about what's enough. It's about what's safe. Safe? You want to talk about safe? You put him in danger. You pushed him until he broke. This is your fault. No, Lauren, it's not. Jake made his choices long before I kicked him out. He lied, he manipulated, he tried to steal from me. Those were his decisions. He was desperate. And I tried to help him for 3 months, but help doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. Silence. Then, I hope you're happy. I hope you sleep well at night knowing what you've done. She hung up. I didn't sleep well that night. Or the next. I kept seeing Jake in my head, kept imagining what he must have been thinking, feeling, in that moment when he decided to end it, but I also kept remembering the timeline, the notes about taking over my house, the cold calculation in their planning, the way they'd tried to use the system against me. Jake had been desperate, yes, but he'd also been calculating. And the line between those two things was complicated. By the following Tuesday, Jake was released from the facility. They'd determined he wasn't an immediate danger to himself or others, prescribed medication, set up outpatient therapy. The criminal charges were suspended pending completion of a mental health program. My lawyer called to tell me, "You're okay with this? Do I have a choice?" Not really. The court decided treatment was more appropriate than prosecution. Then I'm okay with it. Jack, you should know. The restraining order is still in place. He's not supposed to contact you or come near your property. If he does, the criminal charges come back. Good. But if he's struggling with his mental health, he might not be thinking clearly. Keep your security system active. Stay aware. I will. I spent the next week waiting, watching, expecting something to happen, but nothing did. No drive-bys, no calls, no visits. It was like they'd vanished. Dennis mentioned seeing Lauren's car a few times. She's staying with someone on the other side of the neighborhood, he said. Haven't seen Jake, though. He's getting treatment, I said, not explaining more than that. Dennis nodded. Good. He seemed like he needed it. 2 weeks passed, then 3. I started to relax, started to think maybe this really was over. Maybe the suicide attempt had been a turning point. Maybe Jake would get help, get stable, move on with his life. Maybe we could all move on. I was wrong.